Hello students, welcome to Week 6 of HRMT19014 interview preparation. This week we're going to be talking about how you prepare to conduct interviews for a particular vacancy. There's been some great work on the forums. There's been some really good questions about the assessment coming up at the end of the week. Your PowerPoint presentation is due the end of this week, Week 6. And if you have any questions about that, please post them on the forum or email me. I will be expecting students to have read the forum and understand what their other peers and students are asking and the qualifications that I've provided there or further information, direction I've provided about the assessment. I'll assume all students will have read that prior to submission of their assessment. So let's have a look at focusing on the interview. So there should be a pre and post interview strategy when you're interviewing applicants for a vacancy. You need to establish valid selection criteria from the job analysis and the competency profiling you've done, and possibly from the position description that you've produced. And you need to use an applicant assessment form to collect details. So what should be on that form? Well, the form should come in either email, forms that they fill out in the office, letters, walk-ins, resumes, and software is available to manage those tasks and track those applications. Application forms should be as short as possible, including only the necessary facts that you need to determine if they're suitable for the position for an interview. Things like license numbers of forklift licenses or qualifications such as degrees and things like that. Layout is important. You want to make it really simple for people to complete. General statement on the application form to the effect that if appointed, the applicant will be bound by the employer's policies and conditions of employment. Consider requirement to re-express questions. So questions will be asked again at another point in time to ensure that consistent responses from applicants are received. Privacy is really important, and it does impact, as we've talked about in previous lectures. It does have impact on how you manage and hold the information you have about employees, and this applies to people applying for jobs as well. It gives employees and potential employees rights in terms of a single set of Australian privacy principles, which set out standards to be observed by both public and private organisations when they collect, store, disclose, protect or transfer personal information, and a statement about privacy has to be included on an applicant, on correspondence with an applicant. Principles came into effect in March 2014. Organisations are required to ensure that employees and applicants for advertised positions understand the purpose for which the information about them is being collected, how the organisation is going to use the information, who the organisation is going to give it to, and how they can assess correct information held about them and access to that information if employees need that, or prospective employees in this case. Clearly, this legislation impacts on the information sought by employers during the recruitment selection process, specifically in relation to information collected in applications and resumes, as well as within referees' reports. One area to carefully consider, for instance, is medical examinations. Procedures need to be put in place regarding the privacy and confidentiality of medical reports and questionnaires. An applicant should not be required to disclose any illness or injury or condition not relevant to the workplace or the demands of the job, and a statement to that effect should be made. The onus is on the employer to demonstrate its relevance, nor is a potential employee obliged to divulge negative information unless asked specifically by the employer. Now, information about employment I've seen, about the health of the applicant I've seen for mining jobs. Obviously there's going to be a requirement for a certain level of physical fitness in order to carry out certain jobs. So this would be a requirement, and you would need to disclose this as an employer as to why you need information about any heart problems in the past, any problems related to weight or tolerances of weight. Those sorts of things would need to be asked and disclosed by the employer. Provisions also exist in relation to referees' reports and background checks. Applicants will usually be asked to provide the names and contact details of their referees. So persons who are applying for jobs will be required to disclose this information. I've even seen in certain application forms that it has to be an immediate or past supervisor that they need a referee from. And this particularly in relation to jobs with the state public service, and the employer can seek additional references. The applicant should be informed about this. Where resumes and general background checks are to be made, the applicant should be informed. Employers must also ensure that where external agencies are involved, that they're going to perform background checks and that the agency is indeed reputable and operates within the law. Shortlisting of applicants. Unsuitable applicants that do not meet the selection criteria, then they're not shortlisted for an interview. Do not rule out based on personal prejudices or discrimination, which might be illegal. Note that if hiring for a small cohesive team environment, it may be necessary to consider personal preferences. In this case, the relevant selection criteria must be written in an objective job-related way. For example, demonstrates the ability to work in a team environment. So ensure all decisions that you make in the shortlisting process are lawful and ethical, and applicants eliminated at this stage should be notified, preferably with some explanation as to their unsuitability. How many should be interviewed? Well, those applicants who satisfy the valid selection criteria previously established should be shortlisted. Initial selection should be based on the essential requirements of the position. Calling in many allows the recruiter to further assess more people, but it does take time, and that means cost and resources devoted to the process of hiring applicants. Use a form or software to control applications and return forms. If retaining information for consideration for alternative position, ask the candidate's position to do that. Post-interview planning. So how will background checks be conducted? Will they be over the phone, or will a form be submitted and asked to be filled out? Referees versus references. Will you take references in place of referee interviews? Getting information from referees, this can be rather difficult, and often sometimes why it's overlooked, but cannot be overlooked. Will other referees be taken, for example, and should the applicant be advised of this? My answer to that would be yes. Previous work experience. Defamation can be a strong incentive for people not to provide a referee check. They feel that if they were to say anything negative about the applicant, then they could be in breach of any defamation laws, common laws that exist, and that often dissuades people from providing a referee check. References must have referees may have insufficient knowledge of the applicant, be unable to assess or express abilities, or be biased. So this needs to be considered, and if a referee that they've nominated feels that they can't make a comment about the applicant's abilities or assess their abilities, then the report will come back as weak, and that might stop that person from getting that job. Medical examinations, as we've discussed before, must be for a valid reason. So that's a brief summation of the pre and post interview planning process and the things that you need to do as a HR manager. Please have a look at the readings this week. They're very important, and also the chapter. All right, take care, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.